Okay, today we'll be tearing down a 1989 Yamaha Big Bear 350 four-wheel drive. So we'll be tearing it down from the head, cylinder, we'll pull stator, flywheel, clutches off, middle drive gear, prop shafts, output yokes. We'll be splitting the case and tearing that transmission down. So first we're going to pull this intake boot off here. Common problem with these is if they're not running quite right, you might want to check this boot here. A lot of times where that rubber's a little bit softer, those break, crack. Any amount of cracking at all, you want to replace that. So next we'll pull this camshaft sprocket cover off here. We've got 5mm Allen heads, and then we've got our cam chain tensioner here. So we'll pull these, go back together, make sure to pull that 12mm bolt there. That way it adjusts properly. Then we'll go ahead and pull. It's a 17mm bolt holding this sprocket on. So go ahead and pull that there. Cam chain will just drop down in there. We'll kind of just fish it off of there. Pull that sprocket and drop that cam chain down there. Now we will go ahead and pull these 14mm bolts. There's 4 of those on the top of the head. These are long bolts going clear down to the crankcase, and they've got brass washers on the top, so you want to make sure that those go back on there. Next, we'll pull the 6mm Allen bolts. And there's 2 of those on the cam chain side, and then we'll be ready to pull this head. We don't have to remove the valve covers to pull this head, although you want to, or the rocker covers here, valve adjusters, although you will want to inspect those before going back together. Now these fins, you don't want to use a crowbar or anything to stick underneath there. These fins are aluminum and they break very easily, so a lot of times you can just kind of wiggle it back and forth and walk it off. There is a gasket that seals in there, and sometimes a little bit more challenging. This is your head gasket here. It's a metal gasket. And you want to inspect your valves there. You got your spark plug sticking through there. And then you've got your guides here. I've several people ask me about the guides, how they go back in there. There's one guide will just slide down in there. It'll sit inside the groove there in the bottom of the crankcase. The other guide is attached down behind the flywheel here, so we'll get to that in a moment here. So we'll go ahead and pull this cylinder here. We've got a 5mm Allen clear down at the bottom here. Go ahead and pull that 5mm Allen. Again, the cam chain is dropped down in there, so you want to make sure you don't move that piston too much at all. It'll bind that cam chain and break that case. So again, same thing, walk that off there. You can, a lot of times, just hit it a couple times and it will break that gasket seal, allow you to walk it off. If you can't get it off, make sure you put your crowbar in an area that's not going to break a fin on the, as that's what's used to cool this. So we've got your cylinder here. Inspect your cylinder, make sure it's in good condition. A lot of times these top end will come apart because of because of piston problems. But you want to inspect that really good, bore it out if you need to, hone it if you need to, but you don't want to put it back together if there's any kind of scoring at all. So we've got your piston here, and to remove that piston, what I do is grab a hook. Small screwdriver works too. There's a circlip on the side of it, so if there's if you put your hook inside that groove and kind of pry behind that circlip, and this circlip will go flying across the room if you let it. So I like put my finger over top of it and just hold it from flying. Then you just push. Generally you can use your finger unless your motor's seized up. Generally you can use your finger to push it out. You don't want to use pliers and grab on it and pull on it, score it up here, because that's where it's going to slide back in. You'll damage it. But you can see there's a little bit of scoring here on this piston. We can clean this up and inspect it really good. I wouldn't reuse this piston. It's not scoring that you can feel, but it's scoring that you can see, and there's a coating on there that you don't want to reuse those if there's any kind of damage at all. So we occasionally get used ones in there that are in good condition. So cam chain is here. And we'll go ahead and pull the stator and the flywheel off here. I'm gonna prop this motor up so you can see a little bit better. We'll go ahead and pull these 4 5mm Allen bolts. This is just your recoil pull starter cover. Now we don't have a pull starter on this one, but just the plastic cover here. And then we've got your what generally would be your recoil starter cup would sit here. This again is just a block off. I like to hold the cam chain tight so that it doesn't spin in there, doesn't bind that cam chain and break your crankcase. 17mm regular threaded bolts, so counterclockwise to remove those. Take it out there. You can go ahead and just pull it out there. There's your block off there. Now to pull the stator cover, there are 8mm bolts all the way around this. There's 9 bolts total. We'll go ahead and take these bolts off of here. What I like to do is take a rubber mallet or a plastic mallet, just kind of break that seal there. That'll allow us to walk that off of there. And there is your stator assembly. We've got your pickup here. This is all magnetic coils to create spark and power for your motor. Here's your flywheel here. We'll pull that. But right now, just so we don't drop any parts down in there, we'll go ahead and pull this idler gear here. There's a shaft right here, and I may not be able to. We'll wait and do that. So I'll go ahead and pull the oil filter cover here, as well as with the adapter. You want to keep these bolts with the oil filter cover because they're specialty bolts made specific for that hole. So you want to make sure these 2 bolts at least are with it. So oil filter, don't ever reuse an oil filter. Those can be thrown away. What I like to do on this part here now is put this recoil pull starter adapter bolt back in there. That'll keep us from damaging the crankcase when we're going together, or when we're pulling that flywheel. But I'll show you how to pull that flywheel back. I just screw that in there as far as it'll go there. We'll go ahead and pull these. Let's see, we'll go ahead and pull this bottom yoke here going up to the front. What I do with these is a small flat screwdriver and a small hammer. And you can do this on the four-wheeler. These are a challenge to do when they're on the four-wheeler because they're never in a good spot. But I'm looking for the yoke that's attached to the motor. I'm looking for the clips that go in there that hold the caps on. And once you find those, what I do is tap them. A lot of times that'll move them enough to where you can get your screwdriver in behind there. Pry it off. Again, on this side, again, still dealing with the yoke that's attached to the motor. Pop that clip off of there. Now what I do is stay with the metal hammer. Take that cap off of there. Spin it. Pop that off there. Now, all we have to do is pull this shaft here.